Hello everybody. Today I'm going to discuss about the different defense cells, or the cells that are involved in the bringing immunity to our body. So in this discussion, probably you may know about different types of cells and the different functions it brings to uh, provide immunity to our body system. So, the very important thing that we must understand is there are certain factors that we must consider before we look at the function of its cells. For example, the physical factor that we already discussed about the external defense mechanisms, like physical barriers. The physical factors like skins, mucous membranes, sneezing, coughing, tears, saliva, cilia, and peristalsis movement. These are some of the physical factors that happens. It just happens outside, so it doesn't prevent. For example, if something enters from your nose, you sneeze out. If something enters to your eye, you shed tears. If something enters to your mouth, you cough and then throw out. So this is some of the factors that helps to actually, in fact, you directly throw out. But there are also certain chemicals that secretes out. For example, on your mouth, we have a on your mouth, or my mouth, it's all, you will see most of the time with the slippery fluid called saliva. In your eyes, tears. In your in your intestine, there is secretions of proteins, a secretion of enzymes. So there are lots of organs in our bodies, sweat glands. This secretes sweats, and these are all is as a part of protective mechanisms to our body. So some of the protein that secretes within our blood, within our lymph, are the C-reactive proteins, and the semens, the urine that flush out the some of the microbes that enters to our body. And you also know that lysosomes, it helps to digest some of the foreign particles that is there in our, that somehow gets into our cell. So in a wholesome, if you look at our body, in fact, has been well protected. But even then, if there are some of the particles forced in by itself into our body cell, then there is a mechanism called phagocytosis, where foreign particles are being engulfed by the certain group of cells. Uh, Phagocytosis is brought about by the macrophages and the neutrophils. There are also natural killer cells, which is a group of immune cells again, if the virus get into our body, particularly specialized for attacking the viral foreign particles. And T cells is the another group of cells, another B cells is another group of cells. B and T cells I'm going to discuss in the next lesson. Okay, and phagocytes and the natural killer cells like macrophage and the neutrophils and natural killer cells will be discussed right after, following these slides. Okay, we also have a certain immunity on the depending on the race that we are originated, or the species that we I mean, like diversified human beings, out of animals, human beings, cattle, mammals, the reptiles, apes. These are different species. I mean, the different species and different groups of animals, they have a different power of resistance. And then racial is, for example, like Negro, Mongolians, and the Aryans are different races, and they have their different immune system. And sometimes the immune system differ within a family as well. So this is individual body resistance. So this is what we must understand as in genetic factors, which will act, in fact, triggering is much more faster, and controlling the a defense system by different groups of cells differ from person to person. As a result, we are able to protect ourselves from the infection. The third one is this is a general one, inflammations. Even there is a hand, injury or infections, or some, let's say cut on or injury. Injury can be happen by many ways. It can be sometime crushed by the hammer, or hit by the stones, or you know or it can be cut or wounded, or is being bitten by some animals. This could be all can happen to our body. In such situation, this inflammation is very important. Inflammation meaning, what happens is all those natural killer cell, phagocyte, neutrophils, NK cells, T cell, B cells, all accumulates in that area. As a result, the blood movement will be much faster, and therefore the oozing of the blood would be more. And ultimately there is a coagulation, so meaning there is a reactions of lot of reaction between the protein, between the cells, and that's why we see there is a rise in temperature, and that part gets swelling up, and this is called inflammation. And this happens in all the infections, and this is inflammation is important, is in one of the symptom of an injury. Okay, so this is also differs from person to person, because some people's inflammations happen just a moment and then finish up, but well for happens for days and days. Okay, now next is the, just to give you brief how the phagocytic action happens. The chemicals that, or the foreign particles that is enters to the site gets a chemical, the cell gets chemical signaling, and it moves towards those foreign particles or the chemicals. Once this being attached, the foreign particle is being attached to the phagocytic particles through, phagocytic cells through opsonins. Opsonin is a protein that is present on the phagocytic cells that allows the foreign particle to attach to the phagocytes. So if you knew, opsonin is a particle that allows the foreign particle to get attached to the phagocytes. Now once this attaches, the phagocyte slowly engulfs, forming a pseudopodiac, the mechanisms. Once it is inside the body of the phagocytes, it will be acted upon by the phagosomes, the lysosomes within the phagocytes, and these the nucleus, nucleosome secretes antibacterial, antimicrobial substance. Uh, these helps the digestions of these foreign particles, and ultimately all those undigested particles would be excreted out or ejected out. Now to know all this process, it is very important to know self and non-self. Our bodies are made up of different types of cells, and we also know there are natural killer cells, there are phagocytes, there are neutrophil, there are eosinophil, there are basionophil, there are T cells and B cells. Who informs what to do? So this is all happens with the sudden regulations of self and non-self. Self is recognitions of self. When the self is being recognized as a self, there is no problem in our body. When self is recognized as self, no problem. But when self is recognized as a non-self, then there is a problem, because it will destroy that particle. So sometime our body cells recognizes our own body cells as non-self, meaning then it is start destroying, and that is called autoimmune disease. For example, hypersensitivity is this. when it is being, some of the cells are activated and then our own body cell is being recognized as a foreign particle, then it destroys. And that is why sometimes that blood is being destroyed by our own cells, and as a result people becomes hemolytic with the less blood counts. So this is quite serious disease. So self and non-self. If our body cells are recognized as a self, our those foreign natural killer cells, those destroyers, those cells who destroys foreign particles, recognized as a self, then there is no problem. This is what you have to understand. If there is a self is being recognized as a non-self, it destroys and ultimately leads to autoimmune disease. Autoimmune disease. If non-self is being recognized as self, now this is problem. You see, our body natural killer cell neutrophils thinks that pathogens is also our body cells, then that is what they call a disease that comes in, destroys other cells, but still our body, now phagocytes and natural killer cell, eosinophil, basionophil would not recognize as a foreign particle. As a result, foreign particles is happy to live there. This is why such foreign particle causes disease. Okay, so now you know when the disease is being caused, when this autoimmune disease is being caused. If non-self is being recognized as a non-self, non-self is being recognized as non-self. Who recognizes? Is our body cells. Body cells, those cells that brings defense mechanisms, recognize non-self as a non-self, it will directly destroy. It's a good, it destroys. But if non-self is recognized as a self, then that would be a disease, because it cannot, it is recognizing pathogen as a foreign, sorry, is a body particle, body cells. So these four statement must be well understood before you try to understand how our body cells act. Alright, now let's look at the innate immunity. This is often happens in our body. As I said, phagocyte is the one which brings about the different engulfment of the cells and destroy the foreign particles, and also it is the reason why there is an inflammations. Natural killer cells is active only when a virus attacks our body. So if there is a virus, there will be lot of interferon protein. This interferon protein activates this natural killer cell and finally destroys. So it acts for two things. Natural killer cell acts for tumor. Therefore, most of the time our body do not have a tumor, because natural killer cell act on the tumors and it's destroyed. Similarly, it can also destroy those viral attack to our, or the viral infection to our body. Okay, now which are the cells that are involved directly in bringing destructions of the foreign particles? One, neutrophil, and next is macrophage. For example, if the bacteria gets in, which are the cells involved in it to destroy the bacteria? Are neutrophil and macrophages. Please understand, bacterial infection is being defensed by destroyed those pathogen by neutrophil and macrophages. If virus gets into our body, then the natural killer cell act on it. This is what we have just discussed, right? If there is a viral infection, it's a natural killer cell. If the worms that gets into our intestine, here look at this, the worm has got into our intestine, who defends this is the eosinophil. Eosinophil will act as a blocking, it will activate certain group of cells and then it will dislodge these worms from our small intestine. Please keep in mind, these tissue encapsulations or expulsion of the foreign pathogens would be done by group of cells and is being activated by eosinophil. So four different groups of cells. One is when the bacteria gets in, The phagocytes and the macrophages act on that. When the virus get in, the natural killer cells act on it. These are the cells which directly destroy. Please keep in mind, it directly destroy. Okay, when these worms gets into our stomach, is an eosinophil. Okay, so this way, I mean, like our bodies are being well protected. This is also to show you how the apoptosis happens. Apoptosis is a natural programmed cell death. When the foreign particle or anything that happens to your cell, slowly it dies, and this is called apoptosis. Apoptosis is also a natural process of cell death. However, it has to undergo apoptosis. Okay, then how the neutrophil, neutrophil brings or kills the bacteria. When the bacteria gets into the body, sorry, neutrophil cells, the neutrophil has got these granulocytes, granules with the nucleus with the granules is a granulocytes. These granules secretes these antibacterial chemicals. So once this bacteria gets in, these antibacterial chemicals will destroy these pathogens, and ultimately it will be release out the unwanted particle or the neutral substance. Okay, that's all about the different types of cell. Please understand where is the macrophages, what it does, which are the which does it act to virus, bacteria, or the worms. Similarly, what is neutrophil, what it does, with what kind of infection does it become active, uh, what is what kind of cells act when the virus attacks, and which protein and which cells, natural killer cells and interferon proteins. Okay, and then which group of cells, defense cells, act when there is worm in your stomach. So this is what is very important here to understand. I hope this small video will help you to understand different groups of immune cells. Thank you.